Good evening. My name is Stefan Diduk. I'm with THR Policy, and we educate on the subject of tobacco harm reduction and vapor products in particular. And by the way, for a first presentation, that was actually pretty excellent. We could go into details about FDA regulations and timelines and everything else, and how Supervisor Walton's ordinance is unfolding, but we'll save that for a later date. So I think we all agree minors shouldn't vape, and even though the city's density of minors is far below the national average, the compliance to prevent underage sales by retailers is actually extremely high. I don't think this policy will accomplish any of the stated goals. There are other ways to prevent youth access and use, and we strongly encourage the city to engage in that conversation and work together on more substantial and more successful solutions, because prohibition never works. The proposed prohibition on the sales of all vapor products is nothing short of mind-boggling and contrary to the harm reduction policies that the city has embraced when it comes to other substances. It is nothing short of telling current smokers that they should continue to smoke, as the city denies them access to a life-saving technology, a technology that has worked for millions of Americans. It is also nothing short of telling former smokers who use vapor products successfully that the city prefers that they start buying cigarettes again. I can't imagine the city being proud of unintentional consequences that this policy will cause, including the creation of more of an illicit market and damaging actual efforts towards improving public health. Though I guess increased sales of deadly combustible cigarettes might at least justify the extremely high cigarette littering abatement fees that the city has. I seriously question the city's priorities. I spend a lot of time here and in a lot of areas, and it doesn't take a degree in rocket science to see and often smell the problems that go unaddressed. From homelessness to lack of affordable housing and a deteriorating infrastructure, yet banning legal products that are aimed and marketed at adult smokers is somehow a priority. The city has garnered a reputation of the human feces capital of the nation, yet the priority is denying smokers a safer alternative. Like, you're right, this is not about climate deniers. This is more like being an extra in the movie Idiocracy. Anyway, the policy sends a clear message: keep smoking. And I strongly encourage the city to re-examine its priorities and send this policy straight to where it belongs, the trash can. I certainly hope that this commission agrees with the fact that this is not a policy the city should adopt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Hi, so I came here just to, I guess, I don't have any statistical data or anything like that, but I just felt it was important enough to let you know my story as someone that does vape. I smoked for 35 years. I started smoking when I was 15 years old. And actually it continued through the military and all the way through. Vaping helped me stop smoking. I have not had a cigarette now over 18 months. And you know, that wouldn't have happened because like I've tried other smoking cessation products, things such as gum, which taste like absolutely awful. The patches don't really work. You perspire a little bit, they start falling off. And you know, I guess maybe there's the mental thing about having something in your hand. But the vaping did work for me, and if this should pass, I fear that it will deprive those who are smoking that want to stop of a method of stopping that was very effective for myself. And, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody in this room thinks that, you know, the vaping products should be sold to youth. I think we can all agree. And the state has a legal age of 21. But I can't imagine like why it would be easier for me to purchase cigarettes where it would be much easier to fall back. It would be much easier for me to purchase alcohol. Given where I work near Civic Center, probably even heroin, to be honest with you, if this ban goes into effect. So I think it's a lot of overkill and hysteria. Somehow it ended up in the news story that wouldn't die. But I think if we can just regulate it, like say, for example, alcohol, why could that not be enough? A lot of your websites that do sell these products now, they've tightened up quite a bit since the FDA started giving them warnings. Sometimes I've seen like posts on Reddit where people are actually of age and can't get it, through mail order because of, maybe they don't have a credit card or something like that. So I think we're heading in the right direction, but if we just go ahead and block it completely, then we leave smokers with the old options that we had before that just are not very effective. And, that's pretty much all I have to say unless anyone has any questions.
Nope.
Oh, and in regard to the zero nicotine, there is zero nicotine vape juice. A lot of people are kind of working their way down the chain, lower amounts of nicotine as we go along. And one last quick thing I wanted to point out.
Thank you. I have to, your 3 minutes.
Okay, just that.
That 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Christopher Chin. I own a vape shop here in San Francisco, and that's all it is. It's a 100% vape shop. This ordinance will put me out of business 100%. I have no food items to sell. I have nothing else to sell. I am done with. So if this goes through, that $72,000 that you had up there is a drop in the bucket. I was doing that in a month and a half, maybe 2 months at most. My lease, I'm still on the hook for a lease for like a year and a half now. Is the city going to help me get out of that? Because I know the landlord's not going to let me get out of that. What about my tobacco license? You mentioned that before. I pulled up my receipt while we were just talking just now, $397 for a tobacco license. So I may be at the high end of the vapor industry here in the city, but I have been in business for 5 years doing this. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm providing a good service to people who want to get off carcinogenic cigarettes. And I've got a clean record. If you look at my record, I've got no sting operations. No one's complained. I don't sell to anyone under 21. I card everyone that comes through. And here's an anecdote that I talked to one of my customers. I said, you're not going to even be able to buy online electronic cigarettes. They're like, what? Yeah, and if you live in San Francisco, you can't have it mailed to you. He goes, well, I don't live outside the city. I'm just going to buy it in bulk, deliver it to my house, and sell it to my coworkers. So as you can see, they're already thinking about ways around that. The city's losing out on revenue and tax, and they're already getting the stuff into the city. And this is through adults in corporate businesses. And another customer was there, overheard this, and he goes, that's a good idea. So as you can see, banning this stuff is not going to help the city at all. It's actually going to hurt sales and hurt the adults. People are going to have to physically get up, go outside the city, buy this stuff in bulk, and come in. And the city, the ire in the eyes and the vitriol that comes out of their mouth when they hear this, when I tell them this, it's hard to hear. It really is. I really wish you guys can do something about this and push back on the Board of Supervisors, because this is going to put me out of business and many other people out of business. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
They pretty much hit a lot of things I was going to say. My family owns 3 smoke shops, one in the city, and we've gotten hit with so many sting operations, and we've always passed. I got hit with 2 in one day, passed both times. I was very proud of myself. And there's a lot of flavored products out there. There's flavored weed, there's flavored alcohol. I don't understand why it's such a problem with tobacco, especially with e-cigarettes. So many of my customers have quit because of it, and I always suggest it to them, especially my older customers, because they don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. So I suggest to them, like, here, you get the sensation of smoking, because people who are addicted, they have an oral fixation. They have to have this constant feeling of going into their mouth. And so with e-cigarettes, they have that. And on top of that, e-cigarettes, the 7,000 chemicals that are in cigarettes. In e-cigarettes, it's glycerin, which is cooking oil, and it is propylene glycerin and vegetable glycerin. Propylene glycerin is the cooking oil, and then nicotine. And I understand nicotine is addictive, but there's a lot of addictive things out there, and I don't understand how. And there's different levels of nicotine. It goes from 24 to 0, and the people who mostly use 0 are my younger customers, who actually just like the sensation of smoking. Yeah, and as far as that number goes, my store in San Francisco alone, That number is way off. I've lost anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 a day. And that's crazy. And a lot of people do say, yeah, I'm going to go buy it from somewhere else and just sell it to my customers. So not customers, my coworkers or people on the street. So that's revenue that San Francisco is losing out on. And I mean, on top of that, cigarettes has already got the clean up the butt tax. That already went up by like $40 just within like the last 6 years. So it's like, people are trying to save money. They're stressed out. They need an alternative, especially a lot of them don't end up drinking. And with cigarettes, especially e-cigarettes, it's water vapor that's coming out of your mouth. That water vapor is evaporating into the air. And they've even done like little tests on like YouTube, you could see where the effects of it on the lungs are minimal. Very minimal, like, and anywhere in your body. It's very minimal. The only bad thing about it is nicotine. But you can think that, you can bring that down. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Stephen Cornell. I just want to comment on the report that was given. I think it's very significant for this commission. I have been with this commission, one form or another, since its inception, and this is the first time I can ever remember that the commission initiated a report that sitting there looking at how it affects small business and the preservation of business in the city. That's what the commission is supposed to be. And this seems to be the first time that's ever happened, and it seems to be a very good report. So I just want to point that out and say thank you, and thank you to the director.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?